Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we're bringing in Brandon Bayer. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so I'm excited to learn from you because I've been hearing a lot of cool things about Blitz.js. It looks like it's got a lot of potential. But before we talk about Blitz, I want to talk about you. So for folks who aren't familiar with your work, do you want to give us a little bit of a background?
Sure. So I went to college for electrical engineering, and in the process of that, took a couple software classes and was like, "Wow, now this is actually fun." And so I started as a intern doing low-level embedded programming using C, so programming microchips, and then eventually, after a few years, I took a boot camp to learn Ruby on Rails, and that taught me everything I needed to know to get into web programming. And
Nice.
so I've been in web programming ever since, learned React, done mobile apps. And then for the past 4 years, I've been working as an independent software consultant. And that's been super awesome as well. And then last year created Blitz, and here we are.
Yeah. So that's cool. So that's actually my dad's story too. My dad was he went to college for electrical engineering and got into software kind of through that process. So it's cool to see that that's like a kind of a natural path, right? Is you start working with the hardware, and then you're like, what if I could make the hardware do stuff? And then you start chasing that down. Well, cool. So Blitz, I've heard a lot about it, but I honestly haven't had a chance to look at it. So I mean, I'm coming in day one here, right? What is the pitch for Blitz? Why would I as a developer be reaching for it?
So if you know anything about Ruby on Rails or Laravel, the pitch is that Blitz is the Ruby on Rails or Laravel of JavaScript and React.
Okay.
And so if you don't know what those are, basically it means that it's an all-in-one batteries included full stack framework. So it's not just a back end, not just a front end, but it's the whole enchilada, and it integrates everything really nice together so that you can just be super productive and build out things end to end. So anything that needs a database, right? And so you don't even have to, like, it's key feature besides all the integrations is the zero API data layer. And we actually abstract the API layer into a compile step. And so as a developer, you don't have to worry about REST APIs or GraphQL APIs. All you do is write code that runs on the server, import it into your components, and then it magically works.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's very cool. And so this is like I kind of like this idea of you are bringing back the best of things that we know worked well. Like Ruby on Rails is hugely popular for a reason. It gave you a lot of kind of decisions made out of the box so that you could just build things instead of figuring out how to build things.
Exactly.
And Laravel, same value prop. You didn't have to like think through, well, what's the boilerplate for making this thing work? It was just, oh, I have an idea. I want to get it out there, and just boom, 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 you're done. So that I think is really interesting. So, I mean, so Blitz is React based, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and so
it's actually built on top of Next.js.
On top of Next.js. Okay, so there's is this the sort of thing where, like, if I know Next, I'm going to feel right at home, or is there a lot to learn on top of?
You're going to feel right at home. So there's a few things to learn, but not that much.
Okay, cool, very cool. Awesome. Well, let's, okay. So I think that maybe just brings us to a good point to get our hands dirty and actually see how this thing works. So let's switch over to our pair programming view here. And then I'm going to do a quick shout out to our sponsors. We've got the show being live captioned right now by Amanda from Whitecoat Captioning. Amanda, thank you so much for being here. And thank you to Whitecoat for always helping get the live captioning going. And that's made possible by our sponsors, Netlify, Fauna, Auth0, and Hasura. If you want to see that live captioning, you can head right to the homepage of learnwithjason.dev. That is done every show. The transcripts are also included in the shows themselves, so that when you search or when you look at an episode, you can always see the transcript there. And that brings us to clicking things on the internet. So make sure you go and give Brandon a follow on Twitter. There's also a Blitz.js Twitter if you want to stay up on that. And we are working today with Blitz.js. All right. So the only thing that I've done so far is I ran the command npm install global blitz. So I now have the blitz. We're using version 0.38.4. And I don't know what to do next. So what's my first step if I'm a dev? I want to get my hands dirty. I want to build myself a Blitz site.
So the first thing is come up with a name for your project.
Okay.
And then run blitz new and pass it that name.
Okay. So let's actually talk about what we're going to build today a little bit, so that we can kind of frame our thinking here. So the thing that Blitz is really good at, as you mentioned, is doing full stack applications. So like data. And so we want to make sure that we do something with that. This show is a big fan of corgis in general. So I think we can do maybe a quick app that'll help us track our corgis, and then we can maybe track a little bit of data against them. So maybe number of pets or number of boops, something like that, where we can just integrate those things. And that'll also let us actually let the chat play along. We can maybe ship this thing and see how it goes, and people can go pet and boop, and we don't have to worry about input validation, because the chat are, I love the chat, but they're terrible people, and if we give them unbridled input, they'll do terrible things. So let's call this app Corgi Tracker.
You hackers, you dirty
That's
hackers.
exactly you, chat. You're the hackers. So if I want to create, we'll call it Corgi Tracker. So how would I create that? Do I need to create the folder, or will Blitz do that for me?
Blitz will create the folder for you.
Okay. So I just run like Blitz new,
Yep.
and then I put in the name like Corgi Tracker.
Correct.
Okay. Ooh. I don't know any of these, so I'll just go with the recommended, I assume?
Sure.
Okay. Retrieving the freshest of dependencies. It
was a pet peeve of mine where like you generate a new app and then like all your dependencies are out of date. And so we actually go fetch the latest one, and so make sure it's like all pristine.
So we would need to add code.
I love that. Something that I really enjoy is microcopy like that. Like putting a little bit of personality into a tool it can cross the line into cheesy if you go too far with it. But man, I love it when it just sounds like something's written by a human, and it's not, like just the most like kind of stiff and lifeless robocopy, instead of being like, hey, a person wrote this for a person. We should have a little bit of fun. And so under the hood, this set up a database. You made me swear. You made me do a swear. Okay. So, so this actually set up the database for us. We've got our dependencies. We've got formatting, committing. Dang, that's cool. Okay. So Corgi. And then did you say this is, or let me run my status command. Interesting. Okay. So you got me set up like with a Git everything.
Yep.
Dang. Okay, that's cool. I'm into it. So I'll just open this up in VS Code. Let's poke around.
So one thing I usually say here is that it generates a lot of files. And so initially it can look a little overwhelming, especially if you're used to generating new apps with Next.js, for example, which is just super minimal. But what we're optimizing for is not just an initial like, wow, this is so simple. But instead we're optimizing for actually building real projects. And so we give you everything that you need. So we set up ESLint, Prettier, Husky Git hooks, a test setup, Jest with Jest. And then also we have authentication, user authentication, sign up, log in already set up for you, and forgot password flows. And
Holy
so
crap.
there's a lot
Okay.
there. But it saves you so much time. And so we found that it's worth it to have this a bit more initial overwhelming experience. But once you learn it, then it's the same for every new app you create.
Very cool. Okay. So this is great. And we've got I see the SQLite database. I'm seeing Prisma. And so we've done an episode on Prisma. I don't know how deep we're going to get into it, but let me just pull up the episode for anybody who's interested.
So we have Prisma set up by default because we believe it's the best for most people, but we are database agnostic. So you
Gotcha.
can easily take out Prisma and install something else. We have an example for Fauna, for example, or anything else. So
nice. Very cool. Okay. So I'm going to make an assumption that I'm looking at my app would be my starting point here.
Yep.
Where so there's so much going here that I'm wondering if I should just like run this and take a look at what exists already.
Yeah, you probably should.
Okay. So let's look at the package JSON here. And we're going to run dev. Okay, so we're getting started, compiling. All right. And so this is built on top of Next.js, you said?
Yep. So it'll look, feel very familiar.
Got it. So we've got localhost 3000 here. Let's head over there and look at it. All right. So, including sign up and login. To add a new model to your app. Ooh, this is cool. All right. Restart the server, go to projects. All right. So I want to just sign up. I want to see how this flow works out of the gate. So I'm going to create an email. Write something that I can remember. Go away. Stop helping, please. Thank you. All right. So now I'm logged in. I've created an account, and then if I log out, I can log in. Wow. Okay. Well, that's a nice thing to never have to think about again.
Exactly. That's one of my favorite things.
Okay. So let's poke around a little bit and see how this works. So under the hood, I'm going to make an assumption. This is our next stuff. So we've got our index, and so we're pulling the user. The user is coming out of app core hooks use current user. So we can poke at that in a second. So we're using the same kind of page-based routing that you would in any Next.js app.
Yep, exactly the same.
Okay, good. And then all this looks very familiar. Nothing we haven't seen before. We've got kind of our logic on if you have a user.
Notice the routes, the link href equals the routes.signup page.
Yes.
So this is something we add on top of Next, and we generate this routes object. So it's very similar to Prisma, how Prisma generates a fully typed client. We generate this fully typed routes object that has all the routes in your application. And so if you move that page to a different route, but keep the same name, then you don't have to update your links because it'll be automatically updated. And then you also have kind of safety against broken links, right? So if you remove that page, then you're going to get a TypeScript error because it doesn't exist on that object.
You know, it took me a long time to warm up to TypeScript, but seeing that I just hovered over routes and I can see every page that exists in my app here, I get it. I get why people like it. Like this is so cool to be able to just see very quickly. All right, these are the pages we've created. So that's excellent. Like that's very, very, very cool. And then are we registering that somewhere, or does it just know? Like it just picks it up out of the pages?
Yep.
Oh, that's so cool. And then we're using global styles. What else is happening here? Then we are getting the layout. Oh, is this a Blitz thing? This is new to me. Or is that a next thing that I've never used?
The suppressed first render?
The get layout.
So get layout is this is not a Blitz thing. It's something you can do in Next.js too. But it's the if you go inside _app, then you can see how we use that. And this is pattern is taken from an Adam Wathan blog post where he kind of goes over different ways to have layouts where the layout isn't unmounted on each page transition.
Interesting. Okay, I understand.
And they're actually adding this to the official Next.js docs very soon.
Cool. Very cool. Okay, I like that. And then the suppress flicker, I've also haven't seen that one.
That's something Blitz adds. So that you have this issue where, because Next.js and Blitz statically render your like loading screen, and so the very first thing that you load on the page is going to be what was statically rendered. But so let's say the statically rendered loading screen is the logout state, but as soon as the page loads, we know that you're logged in, or if you are. And so there's a flicker, a short flicker there where you see the logout and then the login, and so it makes for a bad experience. And so if you enable this flag on that page, then we actually hide that first render where it's the logout state. And then as soon as the login state, so that like the login state is like exactly what you see the first thing without any flicker.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense.
So this is something you can do in Next.js yourself. Vercel does it, but we just made it, we like wrapped it into the framework. So it's really easy to do.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's cool. I like that. Well, cool. So, all right. So I have a general idea here. I'm going to dig into this core folder a little bit, and I want to look at these hooks. So get current user, we're doing app users queries. All right. So we can dig into that a little bit. And users queries.
So that's where the magic happens. So this use query hook is built on top of React query. Have you used React query?
Yes.
Okay. So it's very familiar with that, except that the query keys are automatically generated for you.
Okay, cool. So we have an episode in here somewhere. Let's find it. If you want to learn more about how React Query works, Tanner Lindsley, who's the creator of React Query, did teach us about it. So you can go dig in there for the specifics. But the short version is it's dope. It dedupes and does some caching and just makes things more generally performant and faster. So I'm happy to see it here because that means that now I know my app is going to be nice and snappy.
Yep.
Great.
So this is your this is where the magic happens. So just like the pages folder is a magic folder that gets turned into a route, the queries folder and mutations folder are work the same way. They're magic folders that whatever's inside of that gets turned into an API endpoint. And so here the get current user with point. And so how you fetch from that is you just import that function into your component or your page, and you pass it to the use query hook. And then at build time, we swap that out with the API client.
Okay. And it looks like there's no, so this CTX, this is strictly for typing.
And so the CTX is a server side only thing. So it's, it comes via middleware. And so that's how we implement sessions, or you can add your own HTTP middleware to do other advanced stuff.
Okay. Okay, cool.
So this is a, I think you call it a unary function. So the first argument is the inputs, and then the second argument is the context. So you have to put all your function arguments into one object or whatever, and then it's all available there. So it's just operates like a regular function call. So whatever arguments you pass in to the use query hook comes into this function, and the result that you return from here is returned on the client. And you'll notice that the TypeScript types are there statically, like without requiring GraphQL code generator or something like that.
Yeah, and the thing that I love about this is, so if I like hover over users here, well, actually, let me just do some actual typing. We'll do db.user, then I can see all of the options that are available here, where we can do, we can aggregate users, count them, create, delete, all those things right off of this db.user. And my assumption is we've only got a user because I only see that one folder.
There's like a session and a token model.
Session
we
token
use for
user.
implementation for auth. But so the cool thing with Blitz is that this not only works on the server, but the types flow all the way to your client now too, since we take care of that.
And so that means when I go out to here and I look at my index, we get the current user, and then if I get in here, I can get all of the types here. So I've got email, ID, name, and role. All right, so this is like, I'm already stoked. I already like this. How do I like, let's add a page here. So we want to track corgis, which means we need to put corgis in our database, which I believe means we need a model, right? Because that's database speak for a place to put stuff.
So go to the terminal and we'll run the Blitz Generate command, and it'll generate all the code you need end to end for all the CRUD operations. So create, read, update, delete.
Okay, so I Blitz Generate and then
do all, and then space, and then the name of the model.
We'll call it corgis. I guess it would just be corgi, right? Because is it users or user?
You can do it either way, and we just handle it for you.
Let's be consistent. So
so we automatically change it to be, because some things are like the model in the database is singular, but the pages are plural.
Oh, okay. So we'll call it.
Doesn't matter what you give it.
All right, let's call it corgis.
All right, we'll probably give it a name attribute. So name : string.
Okay.
And then is there any other attributes you want to add on this?
Yeah, let's do pets will be, is it a number or int?
Int.
And then it would be like boops.
So this is exactly passed to Prisma.
Got it. Okay, so we've got...
now, do you want those to be required or optional?
Let's make them...
Or default. Do you want to give a default 0?
Let's default them to 0.
Okay, so do colon after the int, colon default, and then I think it's in brackets, do 0.
Which brackets?
Square brackets.
Okay. And let's do the same thing here. And then let's also, that's good enough. Let's start there. And then maybe we can play a little bit more afterward, but so name, pets and boops. We've got some defaults set. Here we go. I screwed it up.
So with ZSH, you need to wrap those to strings, unfortunately.
Oh, gotcha.
The last two arguments.
Like individually like that?
Yes.
Okay. Look at all that stuff happening that I don't know how to do. Okay, and so now we can see, like, if you haven't seen Prisma stuff, we haven't seen that one in a while. So if you're familiar with Prisma, or if you're not familiar with Prisma, don't worry about this because it's not really super important. But if you are familiar with Prisma, you'll recognize this is the way that Prisma defines a model. So we've got, it's a GraphQL-like definition. So we define it as a model, we give it a name of corgi, and then you've got the field name, so ID, and then it looks like y'all added created at, updated at, which is always good. And then we have name, pets, and boops. And then we have the integer, date time string. It looks like I didn't pick up our default though.
Yeah, I might have told you the wrong thing.
That's okay. We can fix it.
Oh, we changed it to an equal sign. So, okay, it used to be the brackets, but we fixed that.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
so yeah, you'll have to, so don't run the migrate, just do false.
Okay.
And then we'll go add that manually and then in the schema, and then come back and run migrate.
Okay. So I'm going to go back into the database, and then we have the schema. And then down here, we've got all of our models. And let's add, this is the one that we added. And so I know this default here. Oh, did it? Holy crap. I have GitHub Copilot now. Look at it go. Gee. Shut up, GitHub. Okay, so that's amazing. All right, so between Blitz and Prisma and GitHub, I think I just don't need to know how to code anymore. I'm just gonna tab my way to success. Amazing. So okay, so now we've got that. So now I need to rerun that migration.
Yeah.
So to do that,
in Blitz, you run Prisma command all like you normally do, except prefix it with Blitz. So do Blitz space Prisma, and then migrate dev.
okay.
And this is because is to load all your environment variables correctly. Prisma has very minimal environment variable support.
Okay. So I gave my migration a name, and now we have SQLite migration, and it looks like it's done. And now we're fixed. We're ready.
Okay. So now you should be able to start the server or restart it if you need to. And then you should be able to access those pages.
Oh, it made pages for me.
Yep.
Oh, all right.
Everything.
Okay. Okay. So let's go back here. Here's our setup. I'm going to go to corgis. Get out of here. Okay, so I'm going to create a corgi. And we're going to name this corgi. Chat, quick. Corgi names. What you got? Let's see how they go.
So you'll notice that there's only a name field here. Instead, it doesn't have the other two fields. So right now it's very dumb. All it does is just a name field, no matter what arguments you pass for the pages. But we have a PR open, and we're working on adding support so that it'll automatically add all the form fields for you too.
Okay. Did I need to make this into a list, or let's see, create corgi? All right. So Doopy Dog, I love Doopy Dog. We're gonna name a corgi Tiger because I love it when animals are named something other than what they are. And let's see, let's get another one in here. How about Coco? I like Coco. Coco's a good corgi name. Sir Snifferton the second. All right, I wasn't gonna add 4, but we gotta. Oh wait, no, we gotta go with like actual English titles here. Sir Snifferton 2. All right, I'm happy. We're going back. We've got our list of corgis. Thank you, chat, as always. Great job, everyone. And I'm already pretty blown away here that I didn't have to write any code for that to work. Like we were just able to say what we wanted. And had I not typoed in the generate, we wouldn't have had to edit that schema either. We could have said Blitz generate corgis, or Blitz generate all corgis, and then the field names, and then just immediately started it and looked at this page and created our corgis.
Correct.
That's cool. That is extremely cool. Okay.
You could go look at the queries and mutations for the if you want to kind of see like what it created for you.
Oh my god, we haven't even been here 30 minutes and we've already built an app where we're like editing data. This is outstanding.
Folks are literally saying Blitz makes them 5 to 10 times more productive.
I can see it. I can see how quickly you can prototype with this, right? Like you can just say, yeah, I want to put together an app. I need to be able to track projects. I want to be able to like link, we know from the Prisma episode, if you want to go look at that like relationships are really easy. But it looks like we got plenty of time today, so maybe we can look at creating some relationships as well.
And we have support for that and the generators too.
Come on, man. All right, so let's poke around in this corgis page. Or I guess let's look at the queries first. So this is our like corgis model folder, and then we've got mutations and queries. So let's start with queries, and so we can get a whole list of corgis, and let's see what we got here. So we've got the ability to got a resolver.
So this resolver.pipe is just a functional pipe. So it just pipes the input and the output through all the functions that you pass to it.
Okay.
And we kind of ended up adding this by handles TypeScript types.
Okay.
So you'll see it in the mutations more with how it handles TypeScript types. But resolver.authorize will ensure that you're logged in. So if you go log out and try to access those pages, you'll get a login form instead.
Here we go. I'm logged out. I'm going to Corgis. It showed up at Corgis, but wants me to log in. So then I'm going to log in. And now I'm back at my Corgis page.
Yep. So you can set it up to do redirects if you want, but we think not redirects is the best experience.
Mm-hmm. Man, that is really cool. Yeah. So this is great. Like this feels very nice.
But now, in that resolver.authorize, if you want only admins to access that, you can pass the admin string to authorize, or it can be an array of roles. And then that will throw an authorization error if your user doesn't have that role.
And we've already established then, let's see, we've got the
by default, you have, I think it's just user role.
Okay, so if I look at the schema and we look at our users have roles, and there's a user role.
Yep.
So I would need to modify my user to include like an admin or a author or something like that. Okay, so I saw a question in the chat that is also a question I have now because I saw what was happening there. Let's look, where was the Corgis? App, Corgis, under queries. We've got our list of Corgis, and it says in multi-tenant app. I don't know what that means. What is a multi-tenant app?
Multi-tenant is like any type of standard SaaS application where like you have a business, you're selling this application, and you have multiple separate accounts that can't view each other's data. That's multi-tenant.
Oh, okay.
Like
So
each tenant has their own data, but it's like all in the same database.
Got it. And so,
right now it just says db.corgi.find many. So that gets everything in the database. But if you have users with separate Corgis, then you're going to want to add a where user ID equals the ID of the logged in user. Or if it's an organization, then organization of the ID of the current organization.
Okay. I got you. So we probably won't need that today, but like that would be, if I was tracking my own to-dos, for example, I would only want the ones I created. Like in this one, we want the Corgis to be public. Like that's perfect. That's what we want.
Yep.
All right. So then we know if we want to create a Corgi, we've got the button here where we can create a Corgi, and it takes in, let's see, we've got create a Corgi, and it takes in an object, which is the name. Zod, I'm assuming, is just a type checker.
Oh, this is, yeah. Yeah, so it's similar to Yup, but it just, and so Corgi, your schema at the end of the schema is saying that your input must be an object with the name field. And if it doesn't have that, it's going to throw an appropriate error. And then also if it has extra fields, it will just remove those. So this is important whenever you're, and so you want to make sure that like a user can't set themselves as admin or something. And so it's very important that you're validating all your mutation input. And so we have that set up for you by default.
Got it. Okay, so to just kind of pseudocode this a little bit, if I had like my new Corgi and I put in like name is 27, this would throw an error because this needs to be a string. Yep. But then if I did like, you know, whatever, and then I said role admin, assuming this was like a new user, this gets stripped.
Correct.
Okay, that's great. I mean, that's really cool because that's not a thing that I want to have to think about ever.
The other bonus here is that our form abstraction components that we have set up for you work with this schema. And so you can pass the same schema to your form on the client side, and you get, so you have to have the same object that's doing both client and server validation.
That's great. Okay. All right. So so now I'm ready to change this thing. So here's what I want. I want to be able to publicly list the corgis. No, I don't, because I want you to be logged in when you do it. Oh, so we're gonna have everybody create an account. They're gonna be able to see a corgi, and I want them to boop a corgi and have that number get updated in the database. So to update that, I would need to add the boop, and that would be a z integer. Okay, no, int.
Number. So that is TypeScript, or yeah, TypeScript
okay.
identifiers.
Can we
probably
make
you
this
want it to be
optional?
optional.
Yeah.
You dot optional on the end.
That?
And then same thing for name, probably. Yep.
Okay. And so that means that if the name doesn't get included, it would just skip, it wouldn't change the name, it'll leave it alone.
Correct.
Okay. And the boop, same thing. If it's not there, it'll get
Correct.
left alone. Excellent. All right. So now
actually boop, you probably want to do I think so. You might actually want to just create a whole new mutation for this, because boop, you don't want to pass in a number, right? You just want to pass in like a single, yes. And then Prisma has the increment feature.
Okay, so let's roll that all the way back, and instead we're going to increment boops.
I would just copy this, copy update the contents of this update one and put it over there.
Okay, so we're going to take this, start here, and this one is just going to include the ID, because that's all we need. And then we're going to update where ID, and our data, we don't really need like data, we just need the ID.
Correct.
And then so then our multi-tenant doesn't matter anymore, because we're always updating just one. Mm-hmm. And that ID, we want, I forget how Prisma does this. I
forget too.
Let's see if it'll do. Don't you dare! Don't you dare! Is that it?
Add. Maybe.
Copilot. What is that? Add number is not assignable to type number. Okay, so I think we're wrong.
Increment. I'm looking up the Prisma docs.
Okay.
So you pass an object to that field with increment :1.
Increment 1. Okay. So
inside of data, add boops. Yeah, inside of there is the increment 1. Yep.
Okay. So that's that. Increment 1. It's wild. Okay. So this then should let us update our boop count, which means this, did I change anything in here? I don't think so. So then I can go into the app and we'll look at the corgis and we'll look at a given corgi. And we're just going to get right here. So I want to, let's see, it looks like you get a delete corgi mutation from use mutation. So I'm going to update boops mutation from use mutation, update
increment.
Oh, increment is what I called it. That's right. Increment boops. And it auto imported that for me. All right, so I'm happy. And then I'm going to say, I guess this should be like a button. we don't really need a lot of copy around this. It's sort of self-explanatory. And then we'll do on click and just like update boops mutation and make that a button. So here's a question. Is that enough, or do I need to do something to be reactive here?
One more thing you need to do is invalidate the use query cache.
Okay. And I would do that by?
Probably the easiest way is the use query returns as the second argument. There's an object, and inside that has a refetch function. So comma, and then destructure. You're going to destructure that object to refetch.
Like that?
Yep, like that.
Okay. So let me move this out then. So we'll
refetch after. Yeah. Make an async function, await, update boops, and then refetch.
Okay, so we'll go async, await, refetch.
Or actually, you could have just done used .then, but this works too.
Oh yeah, we could have just done the .then. But so okay, so we'll increment boop upon clicking, and all right, so we're refetching after we update. I think I did all that right. Pretty sure it's already loading for us. Oh my goodness, did we do it? Let's go in and boop doopy dog. Crap. Invalid type. Okay, so I did something wrong.
We didn't pass the ID.
Oh, haha. Yeah, you're right. So the ID needs to be here, and that's going to be Corgi ID.
Yep.
Oh, crap.
So actually, no, you don't need it there. Just to add it inside the, you don't need to pass it from the onClick. Just do ID : Corgi ID. I think it's already from the,
Oh, that's right, because it's here.
Use params hook.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Number undefined is not assignable type number.
So this is a little bit a goofy thing. It's because Corgi ID is undefined on the first load because it's that statically generated loading page. So yeah.
So we'll just short circuit here. We'll do.
You can do that, or you can just add a colon or not a colon, but exclamation point on the end of Corgi ID, and that'll just tell TypeScript to shut up.
We don't need to boss TypeScript around like that. We can add a little check, because we would, like, if it is, I would rather that it just no opt than through a console error, right? So this should then do what we want. So let's clear the console and let's try it again. Look at it go. Boop, 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 boop. It's also, you can see changing the updated at, so we can see that is working the way that we wanted. And that's so cool. Okay. Amazing. All right. So then I just realized we need these corgis to have pictures, right? So let's migrate our schema to have a URL, right? And then we can just pull in from Unsplash. Does that seem like a good next step? All right. So let's go to Unsplash, and we're gonna look for corgi. Okay, so we're no shortage of images here. So let's go into our database, which will be down here. I'm gonna get into the schema. We've got our corgis down at the bottom, and I want a image that's gonna be a string, and we want that to be optional, right? So I can do it like that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so image is optional, and then I want to stop, and we're going to run Prisma migrate dev again, and it's going to ask me for a name. Add corgi image. Okay, and then I can start the server again.
By the
So-
way, you don't have to add the underscore on those migration names. Prisma will do it for you.
Oh, slick. That's excellent. So then when we get back in here, we've got an image. There we go. I'm going to edit. And I need to update this to include the image. So we can head back into our app here. Look at our corgis, mutations, update. Needs to include
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
the image, and that one's optional. All right. And then down here, the rest of that's it, right? That's all we need.
Yeah, except for the form. So go to the corgis components and then to the form. Under corgis.
You broke up on me for a second there.
The form is you have a corgi form component.
App corgis.
App
Oh,
corgis
components. Corgi.
components.
Oh, gotcha. I understand.
You have a corgi form component under that's imported in this page. But it's
Gotcha.
from
Image.
Yep. But it's
Image.
reused for both create and update.
That's excellent. Okay, so now we have the corgi form, and there's our image. So I'm gonna go to here and let's see, who's Doopy Dog. You can be Doopy Dog. So let's copy the image link, drop it in. We're gonna update our corgi. Beauty. All right, and let's just add a couple more. You can be Tiger. Let's get a Coco in there. Oh, you're definitely Coco. Edit, add Coco, update, and Sir Snifferton. Is there like a particularly regal looking corgi in here? Yeah.
Oh, there was up above.
Oh, there's a
with
better one up
glasses.
above? Oh, with the glasses. That's right. Okay, let's find that one. There you go. Sir Snifferton. All right. So now we have a list of corgis. Each one of them has an image attached now. So that means we can do a little bit of setup here. So let's show our index. And in our index, right now, we're linking to the corgi name, but we can also link to, we'll do an image source. I'm sorry, did you just predict my whole... What is it? It's option command. Oh, wait. No, that's not it. Where is it? Where are you doing? Yeah, whatever. Corgi image. I'm so mad at GitHub for that. Then we come out here. I did it wrong. Multiple children were passed, but only one child is supported, which means I needed to move this outside. Okay. Then we need to style this just a tad. Should I do this a certain way? Guess I can just
You can just add a style,
yeah,
inline style tag or attribute.
and we'll do like a width of 200. We can do a height of 200, and we'll do an object fit. Go like this, cover, and I think that'll just work. There we go. So there's our dogs, and then for each of these, maybe we do like a style. Oh no, I started writing CSS. Display flex, and then we can do like a justify content.
Blitz does everything else for you.
What? No, it doesn't. Get out of here. Okay, I'm gonna make this display block and then I'm done. Amazing. Space between, and then we'll get a little breathing room on our old puppers there. And then this we can do margin none. No, wait, it was padding. Padding is what lists add. Is it neither? Both? Help. Close enough, right? But this is beautiful. Here we go. So now we can click in. All right, and then I can use this same markup here in the individual corgi. So we're gonna get this set up here. Did I do that wrong? I did something wrong. Do not use image. Leave me alone. Let me live my life. There it is. Okay, so we click in, we see the corgi, and then we can boop it. Boop, boop, boop.
Reload. Is that reloaded? Yeah, there it is.
And then down here, I can also do like corgi.boops. Right? Okay. Yep. So I mean, this is super cool how quickly we're able to make this work, right? This is kind of incredible. Yeah, Farshid, I have not written any code. between Blitz, Prisma, and GitHub Copilot, I think I've written exactly like 2 lines of code. I wrote the styles. That's what I did. And so, man, I'm very very impressed with how quickly this is all coming together, right? This is super fast. So I'm in here now. I've been able to, I've got my list of corgis. I can create a new one, and that'll let me do that. I can go back to my full list, and we've got all these dogs. We can edit one of these corgis, so we could change its image or give it a new name. And then I added the boop mutation. Dang it, that's cool. Like this is very cool. So let's see. We've got about 30-ish minutes left of time. Is there anything that you're looking at that we haven't shown off that's like a cool feature of Blitz, or can I throw a curveball at you?
There's a number of different features that we could talk about. It's kind of there, but you don't really notice.
I mean, yeah, please, okay. Please do.
So number one is, did you have to handle anything with dates?
No.
Did you have to serialize dates?
No, I didn't even have to add these fields. We do that for you.
So we actually added a custom, we built a custom serializer called Super JSON that automatically serializes and deserializes dates, sets, maps, regex, big ends, and some more, I think. So it ensures that exactly what you pass over that application is exactly what you see on the client. And so you don't have to worry about, like, we automatically convert it back to a date. So that's one thing that is really cool. And then secondly is error handling. So if you go to like one of those queries for get corgi or something, and so we have that resolver.authorize, and that resolver.authorize, what it does, it just throws an authorization error. So you could also throw any other error in here, like, for example, the not found error. You can see that we just throw that. Okay, so what happens is server errors on the client. So like try catch works for the whole stack inside of Blitz. And so, you probably know how to catch errors in React, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is error boundaries.
Right.
And so we have in _app, we have an error boundary already set up for you.
Okay.
So if you go there and look
at that _app, here's our error boundary.
Yeah. And then the fallback component, you can see that we have this if else. So if error is an instance of authentication error, then we show the login form. Otherwise, authorization, we show that message. Otherwise, we just show a generic error message.
Nice.
But this is catching that not found error, that authentication error, any other error you throw is on the server is caught here. And so that, like, it's so simple for managing errors because you're not worried about serializing, deserializing, checking if the response code is 200 or whatever. You just stir the error and then catch it in your error boundary.
Nice. Well, and this is cool too because you're doing things that I just don't think about until somebody reports that it's broken, right? Like the error boundaries. You just, oh, somebody sends me a long string of this is the JavaScript default error message that got sprayed across my screen and I don't know what it means and I'm an accountant. Why am I seeing this? So I think it's nice that you've kind of built at least some guardrails in here. And I also like that what's happening here is it's starting out by saying, hey, if you're not authenticated, just take you to the login form. If you have an authorization error, like you're not an admin, you're trying to see admin content, say that you're not supposed to see that, and then look to see if it's a different kind of error and show that. So also, you're theoretically not accidentally leaking implementation details to somebody who's not authorized to see them because they didn't have the admin role and it triggers something that says like, oh, you can't see the dot whatever. Now they know what that field is called and they can go try to exploit that. So that's, yeah, I think that's really nice. Like that's a super, super handy feature that just one less thing for me to worry about. Let's see. So
you hackers, you dirty hackers.
There's a question in the chat about the serialization.
Yes.
Asking about using EDN or transit for a standardized way. So I'm just looking at it now. I had not looked at it, but it looks like it might be a binary format. Or newer provided JSON. Okay, maybe. So maybe it's something we could look at. But the reason we built a custom one is that we have it's sort of like progressive enhancement. So we convert it. We just run. We send both the JSON.stringify version and then also a separate metadata object that has everything we need to deserialize it back into the rich JavaScript objects.
Okay.
And so that allows any clients that are calling the endpoints to just use it as regular JSON. But also then we can. Another question. Sorry if I asked my question again. In a query, can I modify how the result will look? Let's say I like to respond with an image. So I think yes. So you can in your query you can return whatever you want. So you have full control. Inside here you could fetch from a third-party API or whatever you want to do. Read from the file system.
Yeah. So we could put here's the corgi, and then we could do other thing. What up? And when this comes back, this might throw a type error because this isn't actually in our schema.
No, that'll work. It'll just add the type to the client. It's because you're returning it.
Come on. Okay. So then in my corgi ID down here, we'll see that now it's including other thing. What up? So we have full control over what comes out. We can kind of change it however we want. Stop it. Don't quit reading my brain. Okay. So then, yeah, content type followed. So it held on to it for us. We've got all those details. Somebody also asked, can you use React Native with Blitz? I don't. Does it work?
Yes. So we have someone right now that has a React Native app that is accessing the automatically generated and use React Native. And we have someone that's using a React Native app. They're calling the automatically generated Blitz endpoints.
Okay.
So that does work right now. We're going to be looking after 1.0 of ways to make that even nicer. Like, for example, generating a client library for JavaScript, TypeScript, or even other languages that lets you easily call back to your Blitz backend. And then we want to go even a step further and bring this magical zero API experience to React Native. So this would let you have your Blitz app in a repo and then also a React Native app in the same repo, and then import your Blitz queries and mutations directly into your React Native code. And then we would also automatically swap that out with the API client.
Got it. So David, just asking your question again, because I think you're looking for something specific. Are you looking to, like, you want to send back a buffer through this query response, or like, is there a certain data type you're trying to respond with? Buffer.
It has to be. It can't be a buffer currently. That's something we could probably potentially add support for. But so roughly JSON serializable, except that we also support dates, maps, sets, regex, etc., which are not natively JSON serializable, but you can with our extra library.
Okay. So to get around that now, you would need to, like, dump the buffer into base64 and then, like, decode it when you got to the other end or something like that.
Yeah. Or just use an API route where you have full control over the request response and buffers.
Yeah. So if we did an API route, we could, instead of going through the query, you could use the query to get the data and then just return the response as a buffer, and you, like, send the right data type with it. Yeah. Okay. That would work.
Yes.
So that's a good workaround. That seems usable. Well, you don't miss out on the cool stuff with that. You could still call the API endpoint. But yeah, I think,
easy, but
it's definitely, like, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, David, feel free to open an issue if it's something that, like, you really care about and you're using Blitz and you want it. Then we can look into how to support it.
Yeah. And Sean is recommending, like, uint8 array, which is a good way to move buffers around as well. But yeah. All right. So I have, let's see. So we've got 25 minutes, right? In that
There's
25.
one more.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. There's another question in here. When is the targeted 1.0 release? So we're at that right now. The last major thing is finishing the Next.js fork migration. So we've actually forked Next.js, and we're adding all of our features directly into core. So it's going to make it's going to be so much better experience. There's a bunch of bugs, development time bugs, and, like, kind of quirks right now that will just completely go away with that.
Okay.
And so I'm working hard on that. And we are keeping up to date with Next.js. So all the new features they add, we just merge.
I just saw AJC Web Dev dropped us an episode talking about the forking. So I won't make you rehash this too much, but I am curious. So does that mean that you are, like, do you expect drift here? Like, you have a fork of Next that is basically no longer Next, and you're just going to be porting over good Next features as they get released?
So currently we're merging everything that they do, and just extending it. So it depends on what the community wants. Right now, the community wants to stay in sync. And so we're just, like, kind of running in parallel tracks. So we just have extra things that Vercel or the Next.js doesn't, but we're still, like, keeping in track. Potentially at some point we would differ if we need to, and if it makes sense. But for the foreseeable future, not staying in sync.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. All right. So here's the thing that I'm just curious about. I'd like to see how we can do relationships. So I have an idea. Let's create a toy model, and then we'll have each corgi pick a favorite toy, and so we can set up a quick relationship, and that's nice and straightforward. So if I want to do that, I'm going to make an assumption here that I'm going to do Blitz Generate, and then I'm not sure what happens next. Is it still all?
So yes.
Okay. And I would do toy, and then it would be like a name string, and that's really it, right? Because then the next thing is I would want to, like,
and then type belongs to with a capital T.
Belongs to.
Belongs to with a capital T : corgi. And then do you want the pages to be nested under the corgi model? So do you want the route to be like /corgi/1/toys?
What if it was so we could do /toys and it would show the toy and then which corgis liked it, and then the other way too. So it would be a one-to-many relationship or many-to-many relationship, right? Because okay. one toy would have multiple corgis, but each corgi would only like one toy. Let's do it that way. They have a favorite toy, so it's a one-to-many relationship. Is that, wait, am I describing that right? Each corgi has one favorite toy. Each toy can be favorited by multiple corgis.
So if that's the case, then we would generate just a regular toy model, and then we would, on the corgi, we would add a has one corgi. But we can just do the belongs to if you want to, for the sake of relationship.
Okay, so if we do belongs to corgi, then this creates a one-to-one or like a sub relationship.
It's a sub relationship, so it's like a parent-child, and you can have many childs.
Okay.
And then if you wanted to, you could pass -- parent equals corgi, and then that would nest the routes under the corgi routes. So here, the toys routes, like /toys, are all at the top level. But if you added that flag, then it would nest it under the corgis.
Oh, wait, I screwed something up. Corgi, that I was supposed to make it plural?
No, it's fine. So this must be something they added. Prisma added. It looks like we probably need to fix that automatically. So just save the file. Probably it'll automatically format, because it's complaining about the opposite relationship. So corgi needs to have a has many
toy. Yep. Toy, and that gives us an array of toys, and then each corgi. Okay, yeah. So this is I think what I wanted. So now if I do the
except toys. On corgi, make it plural.
Toys. Got it. Okay.
On corgi.
Right here, toys. Yeah. There we go.
There's a bit of a delay here.
I know we've had a little bit of I think 4G betrayal. Let's see. Add toys. I'm gonna let Prisma do the work now. Hey. All right. So now npm run dev. And we're running off to the races, and let's go create a couple toys. So our toys are only going to have a name, and I don't know what dog toys are called, so I'm going to give them toys that I know the names of. Actually, I need to go to toys, don't I? So we're going to create a toy, and they like Lego. Screwed something up.
So it doesn't have you need a corgi ID on there.
Oh, we need to make that optional, right? Because like a toy could exist. If you want to. Yeah. All right. So I'm just gonna make this optional. Or it would be this, right?
Yes.
Do they both need to be optional? I assume yes. Okay. All right. And the toy is an array, so it can be empty, which is fine. Then I need to migrate one more time. All right, start it on up again. I screwed that up. Okay. Compiled. Refreshing. All right, so this one, this corgi maybe likes Lego. Let's add another toy. We'll add one more, and we're gonna add Xbox. Is that how you spell Xbox? Probably not. I'm gonna do it anyways. All right, so if I go back to my list of toys, now we've got Lego and Xbox. Those are the toys. And then I want to attach these to corgis, because what I want to be able to show is for each corgi, I want them to have a favorite toy. And so right now, we're not seeing the toys at all because it's not there. But if I edit, I want to be able to choose one of these favorite toys, which means we need to add a field, right? So I'm going to go into the corgi form, and I want this to be probably a select field, right? So how does one...
So we don't have a labeled select field, but you could copy the labeled text field and convert it into a select field.
Okay. It's TSX, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And so you're going to search for input and change it to select.
All right. So labeled select, and that's going to be a select element.
The HTML select element should have a capital S, I think.
Yeah, I think I did a find and replace without thinking about case sensitivity. So it's going to have a name, label. Type is actually not going to exist anymore.
Right.
Okay. And then we can get rid of... We don't need that at all, right? We can just leave that out.
Correct. We can, yeah. Get rid of that. Parse.
Okay, so then let's make a select, and we need to load. So I need to load the toys. So in here, so I can do a const toys equals, I need to get the query, right? So
yeah.
So it would be const load toys. Did it just... Yo, okay. And that's going to be use query. And that would be get toys. Look at the magic happening up here. So we got use query, we got get toys, and now load toys should let us actually do that. Why are you yelling?
You just need to pass undefined or probably null actually to the second argument of use query.
That?
Second argument. Yeah.
No, it doesn't like that. Get toys input. So I probably
just an object. Sorry. So I think
now it's happy.
The object. Yep.
Okay. So then I can get my toys will be await load toys. Is this async?
No, it's load toys will have the data in it already.
Meaning I don't need to await it?
Correct. Because this is hooks.
Oh, so this is already toys.
Yeah.
I got it. All right, I got it. So then inside of our select, I want to do an option, and the value is going to be, oh wait, I need to toys.mapToy. Get out of here with your magic. I'm so mad. Get out of here. It's so upsetting how much it's getting right. Okay, so we've got our toy map, and then we get the option, and that should do it, I think.
What's that map error?
Labeled select field, the map error, it says map does not exist on type toys. Yes, you do.
Oh, it's inside is an object. So it's toys dot, the toys is an object there. So toys.toys essentially will give you the map. And it's because we support pagination. And so it has extra stuff in there.
Okay. So let's rename that to toy data. Not, get out of here. Toys. Call it toy data. Not you. Can I learn how to type? Got it. Everybody's happy? All right. Okay, so now that I've got this labeled select field, I should be able to labeled, if I can spell it, select field, name, toys, no, toys. I'm going to leave the options out because we're basically kind of probably should have put the options out here, but I don't care.
Yeah.
So then toys. All right, not pretty because it's using the thing, but when I update this, it didn't save.
So you need to update that mutation for update corgi.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so we've got a mutation for update corgi, and now I need to have toys is going to be Z array. Is the ID a number? Is this all correct? Yes, ID is a number. Okay. So we're going to edit.
Except it's going to be this is a single one.
I thought we were sending in a...
We're selecting a single toy though.
Oh, you're right.
For the select box.
Right. Okay, try that one more time. Let's Xbox update. Still doesn't like it. What doesn't it like? Xbox update.
What on the go to your terminal and look at the logs.
Get toys starting with input.
Does it have the correct ID in there? Let's see, it doesn't have the ID for toy. So go back to your labeled, or sorry, the corgi form.
Corgi form has the toys labeled select field. Should be using the toy ID.
Change. Oh, you have toys on the label select field. Change it to be toy. Inside the form. Inside corgi form.
Corgi form.
Toy. Okay, and then actually go back to labeled select field. I think I saw a problem. The result, the return from use field, you destructure select, and it should still be input.
Okay. Input, then I probably screwed up here. Yes. Do we use that anywhere else?
Okay, that should be it. I think.
Let's try that one more time.
Yep.
All right, so now we're going to edit. Did I save the other thing? Toy, favorite toy. Favorite toy, Xbox. Let's just check this. Are we getting the select comes in and we get a value of 1 and 2? Good. Let's update. All right. Toy, but I do think that because it's we do need to make it an array, don't we?
Well, in the update mutation, what are we doing with that value?
We are passing it in unchanged, which means that we're trying to pass a number into an array field. So this is my fault because I said favorite toy and then I stored it as a.
So to set a toy on the corgi, we need to add a new field on that model in the database.
We did, but I think we did it wrong. So we have our schema and we've got the corgi, then we have toys, but it needs to be toy and it needs to be one toy.
Well, you can keep what's there and just add a new one. Add a new field that's toy, and then a single toy. Let's see. It would be.
What don't you like?
So I think it would be toy, and then also toy ID, So there's like both the relationship both ways here. We probably should have when we first added the relationship.
Let's just drop toys. I think we'll do it this way. So now we'll have a one-to-one relationship of the toy to, like, each corgi has one toy, each toy has one corgi. That's okay. Do I need to add this relation field?
I think it's, how do we do has one in Prisma?
Don't you like? Relation field toy. Provide the references. You only have to provide it in one, which means that we can drop it off this one because it's already set. Okay, so then this should do what we want. Okay, so I'm going to run the migration.
So in this case, it would be, instead of toy for the mutation input, change it from toy to be toy ID.
Okay, so I'll have to fix that on the form input as well. Yeah. But so to create and apply this migration, yes, I do. Migration canceled? No, I wanted to do that. Yes. Switch to single toy. Good. And then I'll go to my form, and we're passing the toy ID. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So let's start this thing up again. What happened? What? Oh, I ran the wrong command. Do you not need to use connect? Don't think so.
No, you could use connect, or if you pass toy ID directly, then it will work.
Okay, this looks better. So now we have a toy ID. So I'm going to edit this. Yes. I'm going to give it toy ID. This should be toy ID 2. I'm going to update. No, expected number received string. So I need to cast it as a string because it's a...
So this is where... so inside that use field, inside the object to the second argument to use field, add parse, and then parse to a function that just takes a single argument and then returns number and capital number in the parentheses past that argument. So it's like value, takes in value, and then returns number of value.
Oh, I understand. Okay. Okay, let's make that work. Try this again. Let's reload the page. There we go. There's our toy ID. All right, so then if I go back to toys and I look at Xbox, we don't have a corgi set, behold, but we would be able to put it back. So I think what I am missing, and we don't have time to do it, but I just set this up wrong. If I wanted like a two-way relationship, I would need to do a many to, so yeah, so there's a way to do that. If somebody wants to find that, because we did run out of time, where should we go in the docs to look that up?
Prisma many to many would be probably the best place.
Prisma many to many. So that is how we would get to the point where when you updated the toy on the corgi, it would also show the toy with like the corgi IDs that were attached to it.
And we could, if you just modify the query real quickly, it will show the corgis that are attached to it. It's not many to many, but what we have. So get toys, get toy, the single one, get toy. And then I think inside the where, or sorry, next to where, it's a sibling of where, do include. And I think corgi will be in there. Or is it not?
Corgi.
Corgi true.
What don't you like? No value exists in the scope for the shorthand property corgi. Do we have to do like a query for it or something?
You need an extra closing bracket. Or brace.
Okay, so we actually already did do this. Corgi ID is... Okay, but there is no corgi ID set, so we would need to get that synced up, which is the part that I'm not doing. So we'd need to add...
So there's something goofy there, but...
Yeah, so we'd need to like do another query that would be like, get corgis where toy ID equals 2, or, you know, get all corgis that have toy ID set to 2. So the querying part, you know, we would be able to do that the same way here. We're setting a where, so we'd get like db.corgis.find all where toy ID equals this ID. So it's, you know, the setup of it is all the same as what we've done, and then we would get a list of our corgis. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty blown away with how far we were able to go. Like, we were able to set up 2 different models. We're able to put in like new things. We were able to get a list of corgis set up where we can dive into these dogs, and we were able to kind of customize what we save. So we added an image field, we added the ability to choose a favorite toy, and all of that is reflected in the output here. And we did all of that without really writing any code. And we didn't have to write any code for the fact that I am logged in. And if I log out and try to do this, go to my corgis, it just bounces me to the login. Or if I go to like corgi 1, try to see my 1 corgi, I have to log in. If I try to go to my toys, I have to log in. I mean, that's fantastic. So that's all the time we have today. Let's do a quick shout out to the sponsors. Again, we've had Amanda with us all day doing live captioning. She's from White Coat Captioning, who's with us every week. That's made possible through our sponsors, Netlify, Fauna, Auth0, and Hasura, all of whom are kicking in to make the show more accessible to more people. Make sure you go and follow Brandon on the Twitter. And we've been using Blitz.js today. Brandon, is there anywhere else that people should go if they want to like go further? Like where should someone go if they want to go beyond?
The Blitz.js docs are like the hub for everything that you need to know. But I will mention that we're an open source project and we love having new contributors. And so we have a how to contribute guide in our docs that kind of walks you through everything you need to know. And we try to organize our issues really well around what's ready to work on, what's good first issues. And we try to respond really quickly to issues and PRs. So we'd love to have anyone to help contribute and make Blitz the best that it can possibly be.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And y'all make sure you go and check out the schedule because we've got some amazing stuff coming up. Next week, we've got Tim Cadlick coming on. We're going to do some perf auditing. Figuring out why something is slow is very challenging. And Tim is one of the best in the world at doing that. So he's going to help us do some auditing. Let's go figure out how something is slow. I've also got John Breen coming on. We're going to learn how to do a command line interface in Rust. And then we got so many good things coming up. Just like look at this list and all the people. And I am now scheduled into November with incredible people. So we'll be adding new episodes all the time. If you add the show on Google Calendar, they'll show up so you can see what's coming and what time it starts with a link right to the Twitch. Make sure you also follow on Twitch. You can go find us on YouTube. Oh my goodness, we're out of time. Brandon, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I really appreciate it. Chat, as always, thank you. Y'all are the best. Stay tuned. We're going to go find somebody to raid. We will see you next time.